Like a month now. Maybe I left it.
Good afternoon. My name is Peter Lakeson, and I'm the provost at Simons Rock. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to Honors Convocation, an annual event where we celebrate students who have excelled academically at the college, including those who have received named scholarships in recognition of academic achievement. We celebrate as well today the philanthropy of those who have made these scholarships possible and without whom the financial support we are able to offer would be much diminished. In the audience this afternoon are scholarship donors, scholarship recipients and their families, family weekend attendees, and faculty and staff. I'm glad you were all able to make it today. We will hear this afternoon from three representatives of the college who are with me on stage. Faculty speaker Katie Boswell, student speaker Senior Pepe Dwyer, and alumnus speaker Rodney Christopher. This time, I would like to ask Andrew Dwyer, Dean of Academic Affairs, to come forward and introduce our faculty speaker this year.
I'm very pleased to introduce this year's faculty speaker, Catherine Boswell. Catherine, or Katie as we call her, teaches anthropology here at Simons Rock. She came to the college in 2008 after completing her PhD in anthropology at Indiana University. As an anthropologist, Katie's interests are in the cultural conceptions and practices associated with civil society, gender, historic memory, life histories, migration, and urban life. Her own research focuses on these questions in the context of the forced migration and return in Central West Africa, specifically in the Burkinabe population in Burkina Faso and Cote d'Ivoire. Before coming to Simons Rock, Katie was awarded 2 Fulbright fellowships to conduct research in Cote d'Ivoire and Burkina Faso. She was also a resident at the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars in Washington, D.C. Since coming to Simons Rock, Katie has continued her research in West Africa and has published articles in Africa Today, the Bulletin of the Northeastern Anthropological Association, and she has presented her work at numerous conferences nationally and internationally. In addition to teaching courses in anthropology, Katie is a committed teacher in our general education seminar sequence and is currently faculty coordinator of one of the seminars. She has also served on the Fulbright Selection Committee and has thus been instrumental in many of our graduates applying for and receiving Fulbright awards. And for such a small school, while we don't have a high number of Fulbrights every year, we actually, I think, have one of the highest percentage of graduates who go on to get Fulbrights in the country. Katie was also the recipient of the 2012 Glover Award, an honor bestowed by the senior class on a faculty member who exemplifies knowledge of subject, love of learning, excellence in teaching, and dedication to students. We are very fortunate to have Katie on the faculty here at the college and to have this opportunity to hear her speak tonight. Please join me in welcoming faculty member Katie Boswell to the podium.
I am so very pleased to have this opportunity to speak to you and to give the faculty address at this ceremony, recognizing our students' academic accomplishments today. On this occasion, I find myself reflecting on my own experiences as a student before I came here to Simons Rock. As Anne mentioned, my research focuses on forced migration and dislocation in 2 West African countries. This has been my research focus since I was an undergraduate student. I will start my reflections here today, back in October 1999. I had been in the West African country of Cote d'Ivoire for over a week and begun to gain my bearings in the busy port city of Abidjan. It was, however, time to move north. I could no longer delay my departure for the small city upcountry that would become my field site and home for the next year. Congratulations given just 5 months before at my college commencement when the university president recognized the graduating class's Rhodes Scholar, not me, and the Fulbright Research Scholar, me, faded into memory as I boarded a bus for the north. I had just turned 22, an age I might add that is several years older than our typical Fulbright recipients. As the bus made the 6-hour journey north, I felt like a pretender and reflected upon the opportunities this award had opened up for me. I knew that my strengths in my application for a Fulbright were my prior undergraduate study abroad experiences, as well as my intention to expand on a senior thesis, which had been more focused on a close reading of the literature than firsthand experience. In my proposal, I wrote, quote, "I propose to examine the consequences of male migration from the rural village of Tanasaka-Sioux on traditional farming practices that historically required both male and female labor input." Not entirely what I ended up doing. I wonder how that study might have turned out. I found a month into my fieldwork that the city serving as my home base was for me a more dynamic field site than the village, and started to explore the various implications for autonomous rural villages overtaken by the city's rapid urban expansion. 2 months into my stay, Côte d'Ivoire experienced the first coup d'etat in its 39-year history as an independent nation, which brought a military dictator to power. It was the country's relative political stability that had been for my parents a source of reassurance. My father told me years later that whenever a neighbor asked after me while I was in the field, that he would say, "I'll sleep when she's back." He has twice visited me in the field and holds these trips as the most important of his life. Transformations to Côte d'Ivoire that observed in 1999 and 2000 rekindled my passion for anthropology, and soon led me to pursue graduate study with the intention to resume my research in Côte d'Ivoire. A 2002 civil war in that country, which began in my former field site, altered these plans. I now work in Burkina Faso, now currently in the news. When today I work with Science-Rock applicants for the Fulbright scholarships on their personal and grant statements, I advise them to persuade the reviewers that this experience is the next logical step in your intellectual and personal development, and indicate to the review committee that you could disembark from the plane in your Fulbright country and be ready to get to work the very next day. Some of the twists and turns of this journey, the triumphs and challenges of fieldwork, are frequently shared with students in my classes. My resounding message to them is that fieldwork requires humor and humility as well as awe. This message is drawn not from my Fulbright year or subsequent fieldwork, but rather primarily from my 3 formative study abroad experiences in Côte d'Ivoire, Paris, and Morocco. First, humor is a necessity. To be open, to share and laugh with others who are sometimes laughing at you is imperative. So too is the ability to laugh at oneself, because experiences in new and unfamiliar environments produce moments where humor is key. Humility is important too. Whether studying overseas or domestically but off campus, students come to better understand their place in the world and access to certain resources through interactions and experiences that highlight difference. These transformative exchanges complement those in the classroom, lingering long after the student returns. The maturity, independence, and resilience of a recently returned current student was evident in a conversation held just this last week, when she expressed her unwillingness to remain silent when new injustices around her. Before studying abroad and her recent internship, she was silent on these matters, whereas now she more readily shares her opinions and takes action. Events and the changes they bring to students require time to process. Awe is the final critical component brought to and derived from these experiences. Anthropology examines the human experience across time and space in all of its complexity, beautiful and otherwise. My love for cultural diversity and that which unites and divides us is the reason I teach. The ability to witness the personal transformation as well as the equally important intellectual development of our students is awesome. So too is the privilege to work with them on senior theses, influenced by time away from Simon's Rock, and post-graduation plans that reflect a desire to reach out into the world beyond. Their curiosity, hope, and engagement feeds my own. It is through their adventures and achievements I will always be able to remain a 22-year-old on the bus, bound for northern Côte d'Ivoire, with an unlimited future before me, just as it now exists for them. Congratulations to all the students being recognized here today. I hope that you will continue to aim high in your explorations and your studies. Thank you.
sharing your experience with everybody here today. Good afternoon. My name is Sue Lyme. I'm the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, and it's my pleasure to introduce today's student speaker, Pepe Ward. Pepe first came to Simon's Rock from Myanmar during the summer of 2010 to attend our Young Writers Workshop on our campus. During her time on campus, she knew this was the place for her, and she matriculated into the college in 2011. Since entering the college, Pepe has been a strong presence on campus, both in and outside of the classroom. Her love of literature and creative writing has flourished while here at Simon's Rock and abroad at Oxford, which we'll hear about in a little while. Faculty member Wesley Brown comments, Pepe is an exceptional student who writes and speaks with great insight on assigned readings and the work of other students. Whatever is covered during class discussion, Pepe's comments raise the level of the conversation. Pepe is currently working on her senior thesis entitled Romantic Realism in the 19th Century Novel while applying to graduate programs in literature in the UK. When she's not focused on her work, you might find her sipping a hot cup of tea and stressing about the work she's not doing. It is my pleasure to welcome Pepe to the podium.
Good afternoon, my name is Pepe Ward. I'm currently a senior here at Simon's Rock, and last year I was fortunate enough to spend all of my junior year studying abroad at St. Catherine's College at Oxford University. Before I tell you about my study abroad experience, I'd like to take a moment to thank Rodney Christopher for his generous study abroad scholarship, which has helped many students every year, including myself, before studying abroad. I would not have... I wouldn't have been able to have such a wonderful experience were it not for his generosity, so thank you, Rodney. As Sue mentioned in her introduction, I'm an international student here, so technically I started studying abroad during my freshman year. However, spending my junior year in England reminded me just how amazing it is to immerse oneself in a new culture and form connections with new people. So to any students here who are considering studying abroad, or parents who aren't quite sure if they want their children to leave the country for a few months to a year, let me tell you why it's a risk worth taking. When I first arrived in England last year, to be honest, I wasn't impressed. It was cold. It was cold and rainy, and I didn't understand anyone even though I knew they were speaking English. Once I got to Oxford, it felt strange to be one of the new kids again. I didn't know any of my tutors or have any friends, and it felt a lot like being a freshman. In the beginning, I would bombard my Simon's Rock advisor, Jamie Hutchinson, with emails telling him how I didn't know what I was doing. However, after a couple of weeks, I realized that this was my chance to start over again. I realized I was studying at one of the most prestigious universities in the world, and it took me a while, but I finally discovered how to make the most of my time at Oxford. And thankfully for Jamie, he began receiving fewer panic-stricken emails. I don't think it's an exaggeration when I say that during my time at Oxford, I found myself in situations that I never thought I would. While waiting in line for the bathroom at the Oxford Union, I ran into the now Nobel Peace Prize laureate Malala Yousafzai and nervously asked her for a photo after she had washed her hands. I got to meet Sophie Kinsella, who was one of my favorite contemporary authors, and talk to her about my own aspirations to be a novelist one day as well. It was surreal to hear Sophie and her husband tell me to just go for it. I shook hands with Frank Turner, one of my favorite musicians, just a few weeks before seeing him play live at the London O2 Arena. I also got to fulfill my dream to be a published writer when an article of mine was printed in the Oxford Student. As you can see, there's a lot more than just great academics at Oxford, and there are so many wonderful privileges that I wouldn't have been able to take advantage of anywhere else. But for me, most importantly, I formed connections with tutors and other students that really made the year for me. Whenever someone asks me what my favorite part about my study abroad experience was, I always say that it was the people I met. I formed really close friendships, and my tutors were also instrumental in helping me really solidify my writing, in addition to just providing good conversation every week. Some of the work I did in my tutorials also prompted me to start thinking about my senior thesis, and as I write it now, I definitely draw upon the research and writing that I did during my year abroad. I fell in love with England to the point where I decided a few months ago that I will only apply to graduate programs there for next year because I resolved that I wanted to return. And in that way, Oxford changed my plans for the future. I've also known past students who have gone abroad for a semester earlier and, like me, returned to their study abroad country. But even if you don't go back there, study abroad still shows you that you're capable of creating a new home in a new country. And even after returning to Simon's Rock, I've stayed in touch with both friends and tutors who are already thrilled at the possibility of me coming back next year. By choosing to stay at Simon's Rock and study abroad, I was able to study what I love in an entirely new and remarkable environment where I was forced out of my comfort zone both socially and academically, but was highly rewarded in return. I hope you all have the opportunity to spend time abroad during your college years as well. And if you have any questions for me, I'll also be on the study abroad panel at 3:30 later today. Lastly, Rodney, thank you again for helping make my junior year an incredible adventure. It really wouldn't have been possible without you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pepe, for sharing your thoughts and a really compelling case for study abroad. And I am sure that England was as impressed with you in the end as you were with England by the time you left. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our alumnus speaker, Rodney Christopher. Rodney is Director of Capital Deployment at the F.B. Hearn Foundation in New York City. The Foundation's mission is to help people in the United States escape poverty, thrive, and enjoy the benefits of full livelihood, opportunity, and community. Its strategy is, and I quote, to invest capital to expand reliable employment and economic opportunity for those on the margins. Previously, Rodney served as Vice President of Consulting Services for the Nonprofit Finance Fund, where he helped unlock the potential of nonprofit organizations and guide them through the critical decisions and investments that directly impact their bottom line. Rodney managed the organization's Nonprofit Recovery Fund, which raised and distributed over $10 million to help New York City nonprofits financially to recover from the economic effects of September 11. He has also served as co-manager and program officer for the Leading for the Future initiative, funded by the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation, which provides millions of dollars in change capital to select arts and culture organizations while also promoting the change capital concept. Rodney has served on the boards of numerous organizations, including the Simon's Rock Alumni Association, is a frequent visitor to campus, and is a very dear friend of the college. He's a member of the Simon's Rock entering class of 1986. We are always pleased to have Rodney back on campus, and are delighted that he agreed to be today's alumnus speaker. Welcome, Rodney.
As tall as you can, we're going to leave it right there to see how this works, right? I suddenly feel like I have to be impressive, but I'll just be me and see how that goes. It's a real joy to come back, and I'll start by just sort of offering how it is that I ended up here. So it was a rainy Saturday. It was April 12th. I was a sophomore in high school, and I was grateful that it was Saturday because I really wasn't enjoying high school very much. I was a great student. I was number one in my class with 1,200 students at Brooklyn Tech in New York City, but I was miserable. And I remember going shopping with my mom and my sisters, we do on Saturday mornings in Brooklyn, and came home, checked the mail. There was lots of mail, nothing important, except there was this envelope. And it said, "Are you bored with high school?" This was the old school attempt to get my attention. It really worked. I opened it, and it said, the brochure said, "Why wait to go to college?" I got really excited. And I went upstairs and I read through it was a very small brochure, but I sort of read every word like 10 times because I kept thinking to myself, this can't be real. And I remember filling out the little response card and literally running through the rain to the mailbox down the street. And this is fun. There's a mailbox that suddenly had, mailboxes sort of curved at the top, at the bottom. For whatever reason, this mailbox's bottom had a sort of hole in it So when you put your mail in, you had to make sure it didn't slide out the other end. So I literally, running through the rain, I put it in, I slide, and then I did one of these, and like it's freezing, I'm cold, and I ran back home and I thought, could this be real? And sure enough, I got more information, and I don't know, 4.5 months later, I was here as a college freshman, and I thought to myself, this happened really fast, and now that I'm almost 45, I will say to you that it didn't occur to me at 16 how big a risk I was taking. It didn't feel like a risk. The risk was not coming. And so when I think back with tremendous gratitude for what Simons Rock has given me, I think to myself, a rainy Saturday morning changed my life forever. And I imagine that many of you in the room feel the same way. I want to pause for a moment, because for me, Simons Rock is love. And I wouldn't have made it here had my parents not loved me enough to take the risk with me. So if you'll just indulge me for a moment, I'd like to ask the parents of Simons Rock students in Milan to please stand. To me, you're the heroes of this campus. Without you, we would not be here. And I am pretty sure that most of the students in the room, if not all of you, are really, really grateful for you, as I am, and as all of us are, for going on this journey. Because frankly, I don't want to know what my life would have been like had I not come to Simons Rock. I was sort of on the path to being at Harvard or MIT or Yale, and I probably would have done fine there, but I did really well here. And I felt like I was part of a community that just embraced life and love and happiness and joy and challenge. Boy, were we challenged. And so last night I came here with my beautiful boyfriend, and we enjoyed watching the murder mystery. It was so much fun. I thought to myself, this could only happen here. You know, and the parents and students working together as teams going around, and I kept thinking, there are reality shows that would kill for this footage. You know, it was fantastic, and I applaud everyone who was involved. It was awesome. So you heard some stuff about me. I want to tell you a little bit about the scholarship that's named after me, and Pepe, really, really wonderful of you to thank me. I'll tell you why you should thank me, though. It's not for the money. The money, actually, there's a little story that goes with this. So I was a kid on welfare. I came to this college, lots of scholarship money, thank you very much. And I had an opportunity to go to Mexico as a first-year student. And I couldn't afford it. And the college offered me $1,000. It was $1,000 to go for 3 weeks, right? Including airfare, all. I didn't have it. And I remember Bob Wynn coming to me and saying, we can lend you this money, and we can do it very flexibly. And I said, no, thank you, it's okay. And he was shocked. And I said, to borrow, which was back then a lot of money, the $2,500 was required to borrow. To get my mom to let me do that was a big deal. And so I thought, $1,000 for 3 weeks, I can't really make the case. So next thing I knew, classmate of mine from a wealthy family, her mom, her brother came up and took us out for lunch. And her mom said, so what are you going to do for spring term? We have a 4-week term at the end of the year, and I was going to go to Mexico. And I said, well, I'm going to do the production of theater. I was going to go to Mexico, but it didn't work out. And her 13-year-old brother said, well, why aren't you going to Mexico? And his mom sort of touched his arm, and she said, no, it's not okay to ask those kinds of questions. I said, no, it's fine. It was a money thing, it didn't work out. It's really okay. And literally within a week, he gives me a call, and he says, so Rodney, my 14th birthday is coming up. And I have more than any 14-year-old kid could ever want or need. And so I've asked my mom if she would send you to Mexico as my 14th birthday present from her. Sometimes I can't get through the story without crying, so far okay. So I got to go to Mexico. It was my first plane trip, my first trip out of the country, and I was dreaming in Spanish before I was done. I can't tell you the number of ways that changed my life. So years later, we're talking about 2006. So as Peter said, I've been an active alum. It wasn't hard for me to be an active alum because this place means so much to me. And I would be invited to the annual board retreat, which happens in New York City, very convenient. And the faculty had this great idea to require all students who make the really wonderful choice to stay here for the full 4 years to travel abroad or away for at least an intersession, if not a semester or a year, because that really rounds out the education. And I thought, what a great idea. And I immediately thought, that would never have worked for me because I couldn't have afforded it. And this is a place that gave me the courage without great effort. I just raised my hand and I said, I love this idea, but I'm concerned that for students that are not from families of means, it will be difficult to make that choice because they can't really afford it and your Simons Rock Scholarship doesn't travel with you. And the chair of the board at the time, whose name you've probably seen a few times, Emily Fisher, who helped build quite a few buildings and has been a wonderful supporter of this campus, she said to me, Rodney, I'm so glad you raised that, it didn't occur to me. And so I thought, oh great, I've spoken up. Perhaps something big will happen. And so, long story short, she had me to her apartment, 6 months later, 7 months later. And she said, I've been thinking about this, and I've come with an idea. I'm going to endow a scholarship that will help students travel the water away. And so I started crying. I thought, wow, it really made a difference. And I said, oh, so you want money for the scholarship? And she said, no, I want your permission to name the scholarship after you because it was your speaking out that led me to do this. So then I lost all the water weight in my body. And then I had the presence of mind to say, but I'm not dead yet. And so she looked at me and she said, well, Rodney, Simons Rock is the kind of place that realizes how important it is to recognize people while they're living. So, sorry, I have a history of doing this. It is a gift to know that speaking out means that lots of you get to go abroad or away and do wonderful things because I think about what happened to me when I went away and I think, I get to be associated with that. That is the gift, and I thank you. Because you embody this sort of fantasy that I have, which is that I spoke out and so really, really bright, wonderful people get to experience things that they wouldn't have otherwise. I don't know about you, it's a pretty awesome way to live your life. And so, of course I come back. And I give every year. This place means so much to me. And I encourage all of you, while you're here, when you leave, if you can afford to give back, you really should, because this place is a fantastic place. You know that, you're here. Again, to all the parents, mine are no longer here. So it's a gift to understand in their honor. Thank you.
You can see why we're delighted to have Rodney come back to campus. In a few minutes, I will be recognizing 3 groups of scholars whose names are listed in your programs. The first category is those whose academic achievements qualify them for the Dean's List. The second category is recipients of named scholarships, returning students, who are being honored for their achievement in a particular area of intellectual or extracurricular endeavor. And the third category is annual fund scholars, students whose demonstrated financial need is met in part by the gift of an annual fund donor. And you are seeing the names of each category projected on the screen to my right. But first, just a brief anecdote. As we were preparing for this event a couple of days ago, I heard a story from a colleague about an international student new to Simons Rock who was congratulated by his advisor and members of the academic affairs staff for having made the Dean's List. He was polite and grateful for the recognition, but a bit bemused because he had no idea what the Dean's List was. The honor doesn't exist in this own country. So it was only after my colleague explained that this young man realized that his grades had earned him an accolade from the college. I really liked this story when I heard it, because though it describes one individual's situation, it also, I think, captures something really profound about the students who attend Simons Rock. Unlike at most colleges and universities, academic achievement here is not primarily a means to some other end, be it recognition on the Dean's List, or divisional awards, or transcript littered with A's, but an end in itself. It's the result of hard work, yes, but work that's inspired by deep curiosity and a willingness to grapple with challenging ideas, not by some sense of obligation or the promise of future success. If Simons Rock students are attentive to their grades, it's because, given the small size of our classes, In the close relationships between faculty and students, grades are an authentic index to their mastery of the material. And at Simon's Rock, it's mastery that matters. I don't mean in any way to detract from the accomplishments of the students we celebrate this afternoon. On the contrary, I want to lead the chorus of praise for their achievements, achievements which are all the more impressive given the rigor of our academic program. But it's the combination of talent, intellectual engagement, and what the Germans call Sitzfleisch, or persistence, that we honor today, a combination to which grades only bear witness. In thinking about the relationship between students' achievements and their grades at Simon's Rock, I'm reminded of our rankings, which tend to be very high in national polls of academic excellence. I heard that just recently, Business Insider ranked us number 42 when it comes to the smartest students of the 600 colleges that they examined, of about 4,700 colleges across the country. So this conclusion was based primarily on SAT scores. What to make of such a ranking? On the one hand, we can be proud that a disinterested third party has affirmed what we know to be anecdotally true, that our students are really, really smart. But on the other hand, we realize that the SAT, which we don't even require by the way for application, measures the least interesting thing about Simon's Rock and the students who attend it. Of course, rockers who take the test do well on it, but their scores, like their grades, are not what we value here. Rather, it is the qualities that make those scores and those grades possible. An eagerness to engage, the capacity to tolerate complexity rather than to look for easy simplicity, and above all, frankly, the willingness to work hard. These are dispositions and habits of mind, in addition, frankly, to sheer brain power, so characteristic of rockers, and so well represented by the students that we celebrate here today. Our primary purpose this afternoon is to recognize those who have received honors and awards from the college, but in doing so, we also should recognize and thank the donors whose contributions make those awards possible. The named and annual fund scholarships only exist because of alumni, current and past parents, friends, and faculty and staff who were so convinced of the virtues of the Simon's Rock education that they want to make it available for those who otherwise might not have access to it. We are deeply grateful for their generosity, and I would be remiss if I did not look out at this audience and express the hope that you will, if you can, follow their examples and make Simon's Rock an option for the next generation of students. Congratulations once more to all who are being recognized. We are proud of and for you, and we wish you a wonderful year and a brilliant future. So, first, we are recognizing students who earned a place on the Dean's List for their grades in one or both semesters during the previous academic year. Students are placed on the Dean's List if they earned a combined GPA of 3.5 for the semester, or if they earn a GPA of 3.3 and have no grades below a B. This is no easy task. The academic program at Simon's Rock is challenging, and faculty have very high expectations of their students. The fact that a significant percentage of the student body meets those expectations is testament both to the caliber of the students we attract and the quality of the teaching that happens in the classrooms here. We are always pleased, but by now unsurprised, to hear from our students who take courses at other colleges or universities, whether on study away or at a transfer school or even in a graduate program, that they feel exceptionally well prepared for their studies and that they were motivated and encouraged to work harder at Simon's Rock than anywhere else. While most academic honors are awarded once upon moderation into the BA program, say, or at one's AA or BA graduation, the Dean's List allows the college to recognize students' academic achievement on a more regular basis. Because the honor comes at the end of the semester, students, faculty, and staff will recognize here the names of some students who have graduated and now are pursuing their education or careers beyond Simon's Rock. So may I now ask all those who have earned a place on the Dean's List to rise and be recognized with applause. Next, I'd like to recognize the recipients of named scholarships. The named scholarships are designated primarily for returning students and are given to individuals whose academic achievement and personal accomplishment meet specific criteria set by the donors of the funds for which the scholarships are awarded. The nature of each scholarship is described in detail in your program. As you look through the program, you will see almost a historical archive of Simons Rock. Scholarships named after founding faculty, alumni, faculty members of the donors, and foundations with whom we partner. I'd like to highlight just a few of these scholarships. The Bear W. Whitlock Scholar is named for the former president of the college, who introduced the BA program just over 40 years ago and was instrumental in developing the Simons Rock that we know and love today. The Renee G. Bibert Scholar is named for the retired distinguished faculty member of French who taught at the college for some 4 decades. I can hardly speak more than a few minutes with an alum of that era without hearing stories of Renee, and in fact, Robin Christopher was an awardee of one of these scholarships. The Senior Class Scholar is funded in part by student-led fundraising each year. The senior and sophomore classes, BA and AA graduates, sponsor events that raise money for these scholarships. Bernie Rogers, esteemed faculty member and former dean of the college, is joining us here today. The Jane Rogers Scholarship is named in memory of his wife, a beloved member of the Simons Rock community. Now, I would like to recognize the recipients of named scholarships. Would those recipients please rise to be recognized with applause? Finally, I would like to recognize this year's Annual Fund Scholars. Annual Fund Scholarships are supported with a significant gift by the donor to the Annual Fund and help to provide for a talented student with demonstrated financial need. In 2011, our Office of Institutional Advancement established the Annual Fund Scholarship Program. The program supports academically qualified students with financial need. The program matches donors, alumni, parents, and friends who contribute $5,000 or more to the fund for Simons Rock with a current student, providing a 1-year scholarship named by the donor. Annual Fund Scholars have an immediate and direct impact on scholarship awards for the year, while making a lasting difference for an individual student. I am grateful to the following donors for their generosity: Chartwells USA, Jesse Fecker, Catherine Fisher, Paul Goldschmidt and Christy Hamilton, John K. Hall, Zane and Margaret Laser, Ian and Mary McKinnon, Charles Movis and Mary Malinowski, Jeffrey Resnick, Elizabeth Richardson, the Seltzer family, Larry D. Swales and Laurie Yahui Pan, the Wingpoint Foundation, and Reynolds family. Now I would like to recognize the recipients of alumni scholarships. Would recipients of Annual Fund Scholarships, would recipients of Annual Fund Scholarships please rise to be recognized? That concludes our intentionally brief honors convocation. In closing, I want to wish you a wonderful rest of the weekend, and I hope you'll join me in attending the next event on schedule, the Alumni Careers Panel in Kellogg at 2:15, where we'll get to hear a little bit more from Rodney about how he found his way to the FP Heron Foundation. Thank you so much, and enjoy the weekend.